Hey guys, Bios Ramos, and today the Miami Dolphins beat the New York Jets 20-3, and it was a pretty underwhelming game. Let's be honest, but it is what it is. So let's go over some of the team stats. Dolphins had 345 total yards of offense. Jets had 260. Both teams had two turnovers. Dolphins had two interceptions, and the Jets had two fumble recoveries. Not so happy about those. Time of possession, Dolphins had 32 minutes and 37 seconds. Jets had 27 minutes and 23 seconds. First downs, Dolphins had 22 and the Jets had 10. Now, with all that being said, let's go into the box score. And yes, Ryan Fitzpatrick did play today. He started the game and finished it. Tua did not even suit up. He has been nursing a thumb injury. Going into this game, it was expected that Tua was going to start. And he didn't play because in the last couple of days of practice, his thumb got aggravated. Point is, Ryan Fitzpatrick came in and did the job. And he did a decent job. There was a stretch in the game that he had pretty much 10 straight passes in a row that were completed. And, it's been very good to see, at least when someone comes in for the Dolphins, they have some success and do their job well and don't, fumble the bag, unlike some of our running backs did today. But point is, stats. Ryan Fitzpatrick went 24 for 39, and he also had 257 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was sacked 4 times for a loss of 16 yards, which wasn't good, but when compared to Sam Darnold, we'll see now. Sam Darnold went 16 of 27, 197 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and sacked 3 times for a loss of 24 yards. So Fitzpatrick did outplay Sam Darnold, given he threw the ball more because he had a lot more plays of offense. But the defense did its job. We'll talk about that later. So for the rushing stats, DeAndre Washington was the Dolphins' leading rusher with 13 carries, 49 yards. And then Matt Breida was next, 8 carries, 36 yards. Ryan Fitzpatrick, 3 carries, 10 yards. And then Patrick Laird, 1 carry, 9 yards. Then when we look at the Jets, Frank Gore was the leading rusher, 18 carries, 74 yards. Then we have Sam Darnold, 2 carries, 9 yards. Ty Johnson, 2 carries, 3 yards. And Josh Adams, 1 carry, 1 yard. Receiving, Devontae Parker had 8 receptions for 119 yards. So that's, I think, the second time he breaks 100 yards this year. Next is Mike Gesicki, 2 receptions, 35 yards, 1 touchdown. Mac Hollins, 2 receptions, 19 yards. Same thing for Darren Smythe, but he had 1 more reception. Matt Breida, 2 receptions, 17 yards. Jakeem Grant, 2 receptions, 15 yards. DeAndre Washington, 2 receptions, 11 yards. Malcolm Perry, 1 reception, 8 yards, but he left the game. He got injured. Adam Shaheen got 1 reception for 7 yards and a touchdown. Antonio Callaway, 1 reception, 7 yards. And then Lynn Bolden was targeted 1 time, but he didn't make the catch. Next, we have Rashad Perryman for the Jets. 4 receptions, 79 yards. Denzel Mims, 4 receptions, 67 yards. Jamison Crowder, 3 receptions, 31 yards. Frank Gore, 3 receptions, 12 yards. Jeff Smith, 1 reception, 7 yards. And Ty Johnson, 1 reception, 1 yard. Fumbles. There's a lot. Jesse Davis recovered a Ryan Fitzpatrick fumble. Devontae Parker fumbled but went out of bounds. And then Matt Breida and Patrick Laird both fumbled the ball on back-to-back drives. And they were both recovered by Harvey Lange and Val Hewitt. You guys might be familiar with that name. He used to be on the Dolphins when Adam Gase was our head coach. Now, defensive players, Jerome Baker was the leading tackler with 5 total tackles. 4 solo, he had half a sack and 2 QB hits. Emmanuel Ogbah was next, 5 total, 3 solo. Nick Needham, 5 total, 3 solo. 1 pass deflection, and then Cal Van Noy, 5 total, 2 solo, half a sack, and 1 QB hit. Raekwon Davis, 5 total, 2 solo, half a sack, 1 QB hit. Landon Roberts, 5 total, 1 solo, half a sack, 1 tackle for a loss, and a QB hit. And then we have Christian Wilkins, QB hit. Also, Brandon Jones had a sack and a tackle for a loss, QB hit. Xavier Howard had 3 pass deflections. And then when we look at the Jets, Harvey Lange had 8 total tackles, 3 solo. Quinnen Williams had 7 total tackles, 4 solo. 1.5 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, and 2 pass deflections, and 3 QB hits. Bryce Hall had 1 pass deflection. Val Hewitt had a sack and a tackle for a loss and a QB hit. Arthur Maulet had a pass deflection. Jordan Jenkins had 2 QB hits and he had half a sack. Who else? Florenzo Fatuski, he had 1 sack and 1 tackle for a loss and 2 QB hits. And then Brightstuff had a QB hit, and that was just about it for the Jets. Defensive stats: Nick Needham and Xavier Howard both had interceptions today. Nick Needham's was pretty much a ball. It was just a gimme ball to him. And then Xavier Howard actually worked a little bit harder for his interception, but both of those guys didn't really get a bigger return. Nick Needham had a 1-yard return. He was making some move, but then he went back trying to make some people miss, trying to return it. Ended up losing some return yards on that. But he had 1 return yard, and then Xavier Howard had 3 return yards for his interception. No kick returns for the Dolphins, but for the Jets, Corey Ballantyne had 2 returns for 50 yards. Longest was 35 yards. And then Braxton Berrios had 1 return for 6 yards. Punt returns, Jakeem Grant had 2 returns for 19 yards, and then Braxton Berrios had 1 return for no yards. Kind of bounced right in front of him. He landed right on top of the ball and decided just to down it. Kicking, Jason Sanders was perfect today. 2 for 2 on field goals, 2 for 2 on extra points. The long one was 54 yards. He made one from 51 as well. Sergio Castillo went 1 for 2 on field goals, and that was about it. And the one he missed was right before the half, and he was literally right in front of the field goal. Like, it was not too hard for him to miss that, and he just missed it just right. Punting, Matt Hack, 4 punts for 142 yards. No touchbacks. 1 was in the 20, and the longest was 43 yards. And then Brandon Mann had 6 punts, 286 yards. 2 touchbacks, 2 were in the 20, and the longest was 58. And Matt Hack had 142 yards of punting. I didn't mention that one. Now, with that being said, I waited till the end of this Buffalo Bills and Los Angeles Chargers game because I wanted to see if the Chargers could come back. But man, Anthony Lynn had a horrible, horrible clock management situation there. Somehow, they get the ball down the field. It was 4th and forever. They get the ball pretty much within the 10-yard line. And then they decide to run the ball the next following play with like 40 seconds left on the clock. Spike the ball. Give yourself a chance. They had no timeouts. I don't... Like, seeing that as someone hoping for the Chargers to win so they can set back the Bills was very frustrating. So I can imagine, just as a Chargers fan, and my Chargers fan friend, he knows what I'm talking about. It is wow. But yeah, Buffalo won today. They're 8-3. Dolphins are 7-4. Patriots and the Cardinals are still going on, if I'm not mistaken, or they already finished. Let's see what happened with them. They won, which is quite crazy. Last time I checked, it was 17-17. So New England improves to 5-6, and the Jets drop to 0-11. So Patriots are right on our tail for second place in the AFC East. It's gonna be interesting down the line when we play them and then the Bills. But that being said, some topics we want to talk about. Running game, pretty atrocious today. We only had, how many yards rushing do we have? As a team, we had 104, which is whatever. But it seemed like the offense today, and as of late, has been very lackadaisical, very just kind of lazy, not really putting too much into it. And the defense has kind of been figured out by a lot of teams. Like, when we're going on this 5-game winning streak stretch, the defense, the opposing offenses were really struggling to stop our blitzes and really just hone in on stopping one guy, because once you try stopping that one guy, another guy steps up, gets a big play. Point is, the teams have been figuring out the defensive stuff, and then the offenses has been pretty bad. So as of late, it's been quite worrisome if the Dolphins are going to have a successful end to their season, as if they had a good stretch in the middle. But it's looking good, but that's because we play the Jets this week. Next week, we are going to be playing the Cincinnati Bengals, who are also one of the worst teams in the NFL at this moment, and especially now without their number 1 pick, Joe Burrow, in the starting lineup. But they're 2-8-1. Dolphins are 7-4. So hopefully Dolphins could get a win against them, and I believe they could. But some good news is Myles Gaskin did practice somewhat this week, so our running attack is going to get a little bit better. Myles Gaskin has been doing decent this year. Not enough to, earn a lot of high praise, but he's been doing decent enough to help the Dolphins have some success. And he's very missed in this offense because with him running back there, Dolphins are doing pretty good. As of late, the Dolphins' offense has not looked good. The defense has been good. We've been forcing turnovers for 17 straight games, so that's the current longest streak in the NFL, and hopefully it remains that way. But we haven't been looking good. I want to talk about those 2 fumbles by Matt Breida and Patrick Laird. On back-to-back offensive drives, both guys fumbled the ball horribly. So that does bring concern to, especially with our limited depth at running back at the moment, especially with Myles Gaskin out. Myles Gaskin, he was pretty good at ball control, holding the ball. Not too crazy about, getting lots of yards, but when he ran well, and he did the job. He kept the ball moving forward, just not as much as some people would like. But I do have faith when he does come back, we're going to be a lot better on the offensive side. But we're also missing some weapons like Preston Williams. His absence is very missed. Like you can see that like the Dolphins' passing game isn't the same without him in there. He brings another dynamic to the passing game. But going forward, what is going to be happening with the QB situation for the Dolphins? Obviously, Tua didn't play today because of injury. Ryan Fitzpatrick got the nod to start. And what does that put the Dolphins at? I don't think it's a dilemma at the quarterback situation. Everyone kind of knows this is Tua's team at the moment. But going down the line, are we going to keep putting Fitz in some of these situations? Who knows? But it's going to be interesting to see what happens going down the line. And with that being said, that's about it for this post-game review. The Dolphins beat the Jets 20-3, and we're going on to the Bengals next week. So hopefully, the Dolphins continue going on with their winning ways. And then we're going to hit a tough stretch where we play the Chiefs, Patriots, Raiders, and Bills. And pretty much all those teams are around the same type of area in terms of wins. Yeah, the Raiders had a horrible loss today. They only scored 6 points to the Falcons, who scored 33. Bills won, Patriots won, and then the Chiefs are about to play right now against the Buccaneers. So I'm going to check that one out once I'm done making this video. But besides that, Dolphins win, hop back on the winning ways, 7-4. And let's see what happens from here on out.